Tatooine might look like a boring desert wasteland, but this place was actually the criminal capital of the Outer Rim, completely controlled by the Hutts and serving as Jabba's personal kingdom. In fact, Tatooine wasn't always a desert. The planet used to be covered in vast oceans and jungles. What happened? Climate change on a massive scale. The Tusken Raiders, who everyone treats like savage nomads, are actually the original inhabitants who watched their world slowly die around them. They remember when Tatooine was green and full of life. That adds a whole new layer to their conflict with the moisture farmers, doesn't it? And get this, like the Sarlacc pit that nearly digested Luke and his friends, that creature has been alive for thousands of years and remembers when Tatooine was a jungle world. It's basically a living witness to the planet's entire environmental collapse. Talk about having a long memory. The more you dig into Tatooine's history, the more tragic it becomes. This wasn't some backwater planet that nobody cared about. It was a thriving world that slowly died while the galaxy watched. The Hutts didn't choose Tatooine randomly for their criminal empire. They took advantage of a dying world where nobody else wanted to interfere. The locals were too busy fighting over water to resist organized crime moving in. It's basically a case study in how environmental disaster creates the perfect conditions for corruption and lawlessness. After Jabba's death, Tatooine fell apart even faster. By the time of The Mandalorian, Mos Eisley was practically a ghost town. The famous cantina where Luke met Han Solo was empty and falling apart. It took Boba Fett becoming the new crime boss to even try fixing things, but who knows if he can bring back a planet that's been dying for centuries. Now let's talk about the most tragic planet in Star Wars history. Aldderon was more than just Princess Leia's home. It was one of the founding worlds of the Old Republic with a monarchy that was respected across the galaxy for 20,000 years. The planet was known for being peaceful, but don't mistake that for weakness. During the Clone Wars, Aldderon transformed itself into a major threat to anyone who stood for evil. They built up their military, started manufacturing weapons, and became a haven for refugees from across the galaxy. The Empire didn't blow up Aldderon just to hurt Leia. They destroyed it because it had become the symbol of organized resistance. Here's something that might surprise you. Aldderon was becoming more dangerous to the Empire every day. It was filling up with creative, cosmopolitan people from all over the galaxy who had fled Imperial oppression. The planet was described as more dangerous to those who stood for evil. The Death Star wasn't just destroying a peaceful world, it was eliminating what could have become the center of galactic rebellion. What makes Alderon's destruction even more heartbreaking is understanding what the galaxy lost. This wasn't just another planet, it was a beacon of hope that had survived for millennia. The Alderanian monarchy had guided the galaxy through countless crises, wars, and political upheavals. They were master diplomats who could negotiate peace between warring systems. Their art, culture, and philosophy influenced countless worlds. When the Death Star fired, it didn't just kill billions of people, it erased 20,000 years of accumulated wisdom, art, and peaceful leadership. The Empire didn't just commit genocide, they destroyed one of the galaxy's greatest treasures and robbed the universe of a guiding light that could never be replaced. Moving on to Yavin IV, the jungle moon that served as the Rebel Alliance's main base. Those ancient temples the rebels used weren't just convenient buildings, they're connected to some of the darkest history in the galaxy. The Massassi ruins might be linked to Sith lords like Exar Kun, but some evidence suggests they could be even older, possibly built by something called the Ordu Aspectu about 20,000 years ago. Think about that for a second. The rebels were literally using darkside temples as their headquarters while planning to destroy the Death Star. There's some serious irony there, or maybe it's poetic justice. Either way, those ancient ruins helped save the galaxy from the Empire. The Massassi themselves were a mysterious species that built these incredible structures, but then they just disappeared. Some theories suggest they were wiped out by the very Sith lords they served, while others believe they evolved into something else entirely. What we do know is that their temples were designed to channel and focus Force energy, which explains why the rebels felt so confident and united while they were there. The ancient Massassi might have unknowingly helped the rebellion succeed by building temples that naturally boosted hope and courage. It's like the Force itself was working through architecture that was thousands of years old, turning dark side monuments into beacons of light. But here's something that will blow your mind about Yavin IV. The entire moon is basically one giant Force amplifier. Every single temple, every pyramid, every stone structure was placed exactly where it needed to be to create a network of Force force energy that covers the entire world. The rebels weren't just like hiding in random ruins, like they were operating from inside the most powerful force nexus in the Outer Rim. This explains why their desperate plan to destroy the Death Star actually worked. They weren't just relying on Luke's piloting skills and Han's last-minute rescue. They had the accumulated force energy of an entire ancient civilization backing them up. The Massassi had been preparing for this moment for thousands of years without even knowing it. Hoth, the ice planet where the Empire struck back, was chosen specifically because it was boring. No intelligent life, no important history, just frozen wasteland with some furry creatures that made decent transportation. The rebels figured it was the last place the Empire would ever look for them. They were almost right, except for those pesky probe droids, but here's a fun fact. After the Empire fell, there were rumors that the New Republic turned Hoth into a prison for the worst Imperial war criminals. Imagine being stuck on that frozen wasteland for the rest of your life as punishment for serving the Empire. Cold justice. The planet has 15 different subspecies of tauntauns, which sounds like way too much diversity for a world that's supposedly lifeless. These creatures somehow evolved to survive in conditions that would kill most other life forms in the galaxy. Some of them can sense incoming storms days in advance, while others have developed the ability to dig through solid ice to find food. The rebels basically stumbled onto a planet that was a masterclass in survival evolution. It makes you wonder what other secrets Hoth might be hiding under all that ice. Maybe there are entire ecosystems frozen in the glaciers, or ancient ruins buried so deep that nobody has ever found them. The rebels might have been sitting on top of archaeological treasures that could rewrite galactic history. The more you learn about Hoth's ecosystem, the weirder it gets. Tauntauns reproduce by laying eggs in underground hot springs that most people don't even know exist. This means Hoth isn't the dead frozen rock everyone thinks it is. There's an entire hidden network of geothermal activity under the ice, creating warm zones where life can flourish. The rebels could have survived on Hoth indefinitely if they discovered these natural heating systems. Instead, they were huddling in ice caves while sitting on top of a planet-wide central heating system. Bespin gives us our first look at a planet that's actually profitable. This gas giant is sitting on a fortune in Tabana gas, which is basically super fuel for hyperdrives. Lando wasn't just running a mining operation, he was controlling one of the most valuable resources in the galaxy. No wonder he could afford to live in a floating city in the clouds. Cloud City wasn't the only structure on Bespin either. There was also something called Ugnorgrad, which sounds like the least appealing city name in Star Wars history. I mean, who looked at a place and thought, you know what we should call this? Ugnorgrad. Anyway, after the Empire fell, Vespin became a haven for rebels fighting the First Order. Apparently, once you've hosted one rebellion, you're always ready for the next one. The economics of Vespin are actually fascinating when you think about it. Tabana gas isn't just valuable, it's essential for space travel. Without it, hyperdrive engines can't function properly, which means Vespin essentially controls how fast ships can travel across the galaxy. Lando wasn't just a mining administrator. He was sitting on one of the most strategically important resources in the known universe. The Empire probably tolerated his independence because they needed that Tabana gas flowing. It's the perfect example of how economic power can sometimes trump military might. Even the Empire had to play nice with whoever controlled the fuel that kept their Star Destroyers moving. That's probably why Vader was so interested in making a deal rather than just taking over by force. What makes Bespin even more incredible is the engineering behind Cloud City itself. Building a floating city in the atmosphere of a gas giant isn't just impressive, it's practically impossible. The city has to maintain perfect altitude while dealing with constant atmospheric pressure changes, violent storms, and the gravitational pull of a massive planet. The repulsor lift technology keeping Cloud City airborne is so advanced that most civilizations in the galaxy couldn't replicate it. Lando wasn't just running a mining operation, he was the administrator of one of the greatest engineering marvels in galactic history. Now we get to Dagaba, and this is where things get really weird. Yoda didn't just randomly pick this swamp planet for his retirement. The place is absolutely soaked in force energy, but not the good kind. There's a dark side cave there that's so powerful, it helped hide Yoda from the Emperor for decades. Here's the creepy part. After Yoda died, that dark side energy started expanding. It was like Yoda was a dam holding back a flood of dark side power, and when he passed away, the dam broke. Years later, Supreme Leader Snoke brought brought Kylo Ren to Dagaba for training, Kylo Ren ended up destroying the dark side cave, which honestly was probably for the best. But think about what this means. Luke was training on a planet where the dark side was so strong it could hide a Jedi Master from the most powerful Sith Lord in history. Every time he went into that cave and faced his fears, he was literally battling against concentrated dark side energy. No wonder his training was so intense. The really disturbing part about Dagobah is how it affects visitors. The planet has diseases that can kill experienced explorers, and the wildlife is actively hostile to anyone who doesn't belong there. It's like the entire ecosystem was designed to keep people away. But Yoda thrived there for decades. Suggests that Jedi Masters can literally bend hostile environments to their will through the Force. The swamp didn't just hide Yoda, it protected him, fed him, and kept him healthy for 20 years. That's not just survival, that's complete harmony with a planet that kills everyone else who tries to live there. Finally, we have Endor, the forest moon where teddy bears help defeat the Empire. Everyone loves the Ewoks, but let's be honest about what they are. These cute little creatures were planning to roast and eat our heroes when they first met them. Han Solo was literally being seasoned for dinner before C-3PO convinced them he was a god. The Empire chose Endor because it was remote and the inhabitants seemed primitive. Big mistake. Those primitive Ewoks had been surviving in those forests for generations, and they knew how to turn the entire moon into a weapon against invaders. Log traps, rope snares, coordinated attacks. The Ewoks basically invented guerrilla warfare using Stone Age technology. But here's something most fans don't know. The Ewoks actually had a civil war at some point after Return of the Jedi, and it got so bad that the New Republic had to send C-3PO to negotiate peace. Imagine being a Golden Protocol droid trying to mediate between warring teddy bear tribes. That's either the most important diplomatic mission ever or the most ridiculous one. Years later, when the First Order showed up in the Endor system, another Imperial ship met its end there. The Resistance destroyed it using the Holdo maneuver, which means Ewoks gotta watch Palpatine's forces get defeated twice in the same star system. The original trilogy's planets weren't just random locations, they were a map of rebellion, showing how resistance grows in the forgotten corners of the galaxy. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out more related content shown on screen.